Hi guys, welcome back to another review, and this time around I'm bringing you two IEMs which I believe are very unique in their own way. The Queen of Audio Mimosa and the EPZ P50. Both of them fall within a category of IEMs that has appeared over the last, let's say, roughly 2 years, which is a category of IEMs that uses micro planars, either a micro planar in the format of a type of a BA, so it looks like a BA physically, or then a micro planar in the form of an actual 6mm or close to 6mm driver in a let's say a kind of what is usually seen as a, or taken or considered as a traditional planar. It's not exactly 100%. It's more of like of an SPD than necessarily a planar in itself, but those are the two types of smaller planar drivers that we've seen come into the market over the last 2 years. And so each one of these IEMs, with the exception here of the HiFiGO Mega 5 EST, the anniversary edition, they all use either one or the other system. There are some IEMs here which I can say were the ground, the ones that broke ground in terms of this this usage of this particular driver style. The Kiwiears Quintet, for example, 1DD, 2 BAs, 1 microplanar and 1 PZT, was the first quadbrid to be found at under $200. You know, it brought a like most of, well, I would say not most, but all of the products of Kiwiears always have their own very peculiar style of tuning, which is very well done. That's the reality. You know, there's no point in me saying, oh, this now, whether you like it or not, that's a different story. But the reality is, whatever Kiwiears has brought out, they've always made sure that it's properly tuned, and the Quintet was no exception. Yes, it did have its little flaws, and the subsequent other subsequent companies that then went down the same road have improved upon that initial formula. But the credit must be given to the Quintet, the same way as we gave credit to the 7Hz Timeless when we were talking about the more traditional sized planars a couple of years ago. Anyway, so let me just quickly introduce you to what I have here, and then we'll start everything. On the top corner there, I've got the TRN White Tiger. It's a 3 driver, all coaxially mounted, an 8mm, a 6mm planar, and then a 10.5 dynamic driver. Next to that, the Kiwiears, the Canta, 1 dynamic driver and 2 microplanars of the BA style format. Next to that, then the Quintet, like I said, 1 BA, 1 ED, 2 BAs, 1 microplanar and 1 PZT. Next to that, another crowd favorite and one of my favorite IEMs of last year, the SimGot, the Super Mix 4. Again, the same formula as the Quintet, 1 DD, 1 BA only, 1 microplanar of the BA style format, and then a PZT. Next to that, the Dunu, the DQ 3001, DD, 4 BAs, 4 microplanars of the BA style, let's put it that way. On the front row, yeah, we have the SimGot EDW 300, 1 DD, 1 PCT, and 1 B microplanar. Next to that, an IEM that really didn't get much attention, and to be honest with you, with its DSP cable, I think it was actually robbing it of its deserved credit and of its deserved success, which is the Moondrop May. I think this is a phenomenal IEM, honestly, phenomenal. And now for this review, you know, having brought it out of the dungeons, let's put it that way, and listening to it again, I discovered or rediscovered rather why I liked it so much. And like I said, I think the DSP cable was taking away or was holding it back a lot. This uses a 10 and a 6mm planar driver, coaxially mounted. Next to that, yes, then the Mimosa uses a 10 and a 6. They are mounted next to each other, not coaxially, but next to each other. So a different arrangement as opposed to the May and the White Tiger, which are up to now the only ones that use, let's say, the the normal size or the more conventional approach to a planar IM. Next to that, the P50, a DD, a BA, sorry, a DD, two BAs, and two microplanars, and finally then the Mega 5 EST, the 7th anniversary, 1 plus 2 plus 2, but the last two are two EST drivers. And the reason why it's here, it's not because it was because of the sound style that it had that I thought, it reminded me when I was listening to the others. So I thought, let me see how it stacks up and how it sounds next to the others. Anyway, in terms of price, obviously, there's two very distinct price brackets here. The Quintet is $200. The SIM card is $150. The P50 is $195, if I'm mistaken. So those fall onto that price bracket of above $150 up to $200, while the rest are $100 and below. The Canta is about $90. The White Tiger is about $70, although you can get it for $60. The SIM card DW300 is about $75. The May about the same thing. The Mimosa $100, and yeah, that's it. As for the EST and the Duno, obviously they are in a complete different league. We're talking $500 for the one, close to $600 for the other. So they are in a different league in terms of prices, and the reason why they are here is more as to kind of let you guys know how these, especially the P50, stacks up against those two than necessarily the others. Kiwiears, the Mimosa, my apologies. The usual build quality that we know that they have gotten us used to. A beautiful resin shell, you can barely see inside, fits phenomenally well, nice cable, nice case. I mean, in that aspect we never have to worry about Queen of Audio or Chimera, because they always satisfy. The tips are actually quite decent, the stock ones, although I prefer the 07s just for the fact of them not breaking the seal so easily. But these purplish violet ones that they have actually do a very decent job. Apologies, as I was saying, Chimera and Queen of Audio and Celeste, they never disappoint when it comes to the hardware side. They always give adequate accessories, good quality cable, everything. And the Mimosa in that aspect is no exception. It uses, as I was mentioning earlier, a dynamic driver, 10mm, and then a 6mm planar driver mounted next to each other. If you look carefully, you can actually see them inside, lurking inside the shell. And overall, the sound that you get is a sound which is yes, there's that planar characteristic is there. But by virtue of being a planar of the configuration that they've used here, instead of the planar or the micro planar that we see in some of the others, there's a difference. There's definitely a difference. You can notice that the micro planars have a tendency of being somewhat a little bit more, and this is, my apologies if this is not the best choice of word, but the microplanars have a tendency of being a little bit more tizzy, but not in a bad way. Well, depends on how they are being pushed and how the tuning has been done, but they have a tendency of being a little bit more tizzy, a little bit more metallically, while the planars used here, for example, or in the May or in the White Tiger, by virtue of their physical way, they are you could say more organic, if that is maybe the best way of describing them. Anyway, the reality is this: the sound has got the characteristic sound of Chimera, especially as of late. There is excuse me, there is instances that I actually found the sound to be, in terms of the lower frequencies, very similar to the Adonis 2, which I think is an absolute beast of an IEM. Honestly, I think it's an IEM that has been getting very little attention, while the reality is that it has a very nice, old school, organic, full kind of sound. And this kind of reminded me of that, but a little bit more balanced out, not so bass heavy. And then the fact that you have that planar there then helping out in the transition from the let's say the upper mids into the treble and complementing the treble nicely. It gives this nice detail. So in terms of its technical aspect, it's very complete. Nice micro and macro details, a nice sensation of space, of atmosphere. Very capable in that aspect, but like I was saying earlier, and I'm trying to find the best word so that as not to mislead anybody, very capable, but always with a very real sense of being organic about it. So it's not, in my opinion, overcooked or overdone or pushed or anything of the sort that it becomes then overemphasized or colored, if you want to say that way. I found it to be very correct. Timbre and tonality are therefore, in my opinion, very correct in that aspect as well, because of that nice balance that they've struck across all of the frequency ranges. And so, I mean, there's really not much that I can criticize. I mean, okay, if you want to start nitpicking, yes, sometimes the bass can be a little bit woolly, it can lack a little bit of incisiveness, but let's not forget that bass driver is handling most of the frequency range, or at least a significant part of the frequency range. So obviously, in certain instances it can get a little bit, it can run out of steam, let's put it that way. But honestly, it handled my usual combination in terms of what I like using, which is my NX7 with either the Yuki, or then I use the TP50 and I use the TP35, which honestly, I have to say it, I have become an unconditional fan of the CSS DAC chips. I just, some of the AKM implementations, which are, let's say as well, my favorites, are very well done, but on occasion you get that implementation that is just, I don't know, there's just something there that closes down the sound too much. On the other opposite end of the spectrum, the ESS implementations, some are really impressive, as is the case here of the EPZ, oh my god, the TP30. I'm losing my ability to speak properly today, it seems. But then you have other implementations, like some of the stuff that I've heard from HiFiGO, that it's just too much. It's over clinical and kind of sounds overly fake, if that is a fair way of putting it. But then yes, there are those ones which do make up for that somehow. But overall, if I have to be honest, when I take all of the DAC dongles that I have with the various chip implementations that I have used, the CS43, the 41, the 41, oh my god, the 131, or then the 198, the 43 198, or the 43 131, or then the AKMs in their various formats as well. The one that always seems to come out more on top in terms of being more capable are the chips using the Cirrus Logic stuff. That's the reality. And I mean, like I said, the TP50 here is a phenomenal dongle DAC. And in this combination, it's great. In the combination that I sometimes also use it, which is with the runabout, the 2RA, phenomenal, honestly. The same thing goes for the TP35, which also uses the Cirrus Logic, and the Yuki. I mean, these are without a doubt my three top favorites. Yes, there's also the full, which is the same chip, but in terms of the ones that I go to more often and I end up using more often, definitely these are the ones. And the truth is, any of these IMs with these dongles, with these three particular ones, sounded phenomenal. There's really nothing that I can say. Yes, the White Tiger did benefit from the ESS by giving it a little bit more clarity to the sound, because the White Tiger is the more bass heavy, let's put it that way, out of all of them. Yes, it did benefit from that, but overall the CSS stuff connected up to any one of these IMs, it just sounded right, period, to my ears, to my music preference, to my music, to the to the style that I like listening in terms of all the varied ones, the varied styles I like. It just sounds always really, really competent. That's the reality. And the Mimosa is no exception. Like I said, the Mimosa just sounds very competent. There's no real major or significant issue with the sound, besides that one that I mentioned, that the sound in terms of the bass sometimes can run out a little bit of steam, or seem to run out of steam by getting a little bit congested, but nothing that is, in my books at least, a deal breaker. And then when I compare it with the ones that are in its price range, so namely the Canta, the White Tiger, the SimGod, the May, the reality is this: they all are very good. Okay, fair enough. If we want to talk about in terms of balance of sound, okay, the White Tiger might have to be excluded straight away because it's significantly bass heavy. The Canta from Kiwiears, however much I personally like it and however much I personally think it's pretty well balanced, you do notice that yes, there is a real emphasis on the upper frequencies in terms of the upper mids and treble, so very vocal centric, which, like I said, for me personally doesn't offend me, but I can see some people maybe considering it overly bright, perhaps the same way as they might consider the White Tiger overly bassy. And that basically then leaves us with the SimGod, the EW300, the May, as the ones that offer kind of the better balance. Okay, in terms of price, yes, they are slightly cheaper than the Mimosa, and that works obviously in their favor. But in terms of outright sound, I cannot really say, okay, this one is the best one, or this one is the one that I prefer. No, what I can say definitely is that in terms of ultimate detail, the SimGod will edge out ever so slightly those two, simply because it's got that PZT and that Micro Planar, which it's the nature of how they are. They just are a little bit more detail capable, as opposed to the microplanars used in these two, which is a more traditional style of microplanar. In terms of overall tonality and timbre, I will give it to these two, the Mimosa and the May. So as I just said, I can't say okay, this is the winner, that's the loser. No, all of these, any one of these three are phenomenal IEMs in their price bracket and for the configuration that they're trying to offer and give us. The SimGod does have going for it as well, the fact that you can swap the nozzles and adjust the sound ever so slightly. Yes, that is a plus point, although I must say that I didn't really see any true benefit. I didn't really see any major change in the sound, so I just left it with the nozzle that it had, and it sounds really good. Look, if you guys remember when I reviewed the SimGod, the SM4, I said that was very much capable of sounding, or of giving you the sound of the Super Mix 4 at half the price, and I stand by that. That's the reality. So when I'm saying that this the EW300 is capable of playing, let's say 90% of what the SM4 is capable of doing, I'm praising it highly. I'm giving it a really high ranking, and that means then that if these two are stacking up to it, they too are really competent IEMs, and that's the reality. It's as simple as that. EW300, Moondrop May, or then the Queen of Audio, Mimosa, are any one of them really, really good implementations of dynamic drivers and planars. Okay, different style of planars, yes, that's true, but really good. So they are the ones that I would say stand out in this price bracket of under $100. All right, so that's it. Let's get then these ones out of the way here and talk now with a little bit more detail about the P50. All right, okay. As I said, EPZ, a brand that I'm a really big fan of. EPZ 530, one of the most incredible all BA IEMs out there in my books. Hurt who that might hurt with that saying, I honestly don't care. I truthfully believe that the EPZ 530 is a gem that many people haven't given it its deserved attention and haven't given it its deserved merit. It's 5 BAs, all Sonian, really well tuned, well built. I mean, I'm not going to say it's better than the soft tiers RSV. I'm not going to say that because they've got two very different tuning styles. The RSV's got the typical Moondrop soft tiers tuning, of the VDSF style tuning and so on, while the EPZ, the 530, uses a kind of a QDC style tuning. But the truth is this: the 530 is an incredible IM. In terms of the Q5, the Q5 Pro, Q1 Pro, and 3 other IMs which are really good. The G20, another one. I mean, EPZ. And I'm not many people know that EPZ core business is actually manufacturing IMs for other brands. I'm not at liberty of saying what the brands are, but that's their core business. And EPZ is what they manufacture under their own brand, which obviously will go in and fetch some of the experience that it uses in the manufacture of IMs for others and implements it in its own product. That's to be expected. So this to say what? If they are good enough to be used by other brands and other brands of significant name, to be clear about that, then it means that obviously they will know what to do. And they know what to do. They've done stuff. I can say one brand because it actually says that they're on the IM. They've made stuff for Shozi. Whether you like it or not, if Shozi has had stuff made by them, it means that they know what they are doing. It means that they are a professional company and that they are capable of doing stuff properly. So this evolution that they've been having over the last couple of years with the Q5 and so on and so forth, which was again also full of controversy because of the fact that they used that style of shell which reminded us of another brand and this and that. But anyway, the truth is this: that IM was very well tuned. It had a very good driver. It was well tuned. It played well, and it is an IM that in the $50 price bracket deserves attention. Its subsequent follow-up, the Pro, is basically the same thing, just a little bit touch up. I mean, the difference is very minimal. Again, is a very well tuned and very well built IM in that $50 price bracket, give or take. So when the P50 came out, and it's been on the works for a while, I knew that they were going to do something properly. That's the reality. And the implementation of the drivers, the DD, the 2 BAs, and then the 2 Micro Planars has been, in my opinion, flawless. They have been smart to go and fetch inspiration on other IMs of significant more value. The case of the EST, the case of the Dunu, in the sense that they've used the tuning style, which is, I'm not going to say meta, but it's got that meta kind of vibe to it. And because it's got that vibe, it sounds then as competent as it is. No, it's not a bass monster, no, but it's got really well done bass. It goes deep, it's clean, it's dynamic. It doesn't get muffled or overpowering. It's an extremely well tuned bass that is not only detailed but has enough presence and weight when it needs to have. And like I said, I listen to a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, from Raising Venus by Malia to Dominic Feel Aim to Trilucid. I mean, I listen to various genres of music. Only rock is the one that I don't listen as much. And what I can say is that whatever I threw at the P50, it played it like a boss. And it played it really, really well. And then the matching of the various drivers inside has once again been done in a manner which shows that they know what they're doing. It uses a shell which seems to be which seems to be open back, and yes, you can get you can hear some sound when you actually, when the IM is playing, stick your ear there, you can listen to some sound. So I'm assuming that there is some sort of open back design here, which again has probably benefited the way that the tuning has been done. I can't say internally what else they've used, but whatever method they used to match these drivers be it not only acoustically by whatever chambers they probably used inside, or be it then electronically by whatever crossover network they use. The reality is this: there's a sensation that the sensation you get is that you're listening to a single driver and not a composition of 5 drivers there. No, it's one single. The sound comes as a single driver, and that shows that they've taken care and attention to make sure that it's built and it sounds and it performs as it should, and not as an agglomeration of parts, which is many times what happens. Brands just throw pieces together, and if it plays well, fantastic. If it doesn't play well, fantastic anyway, because we as customers, we end up buying everything. That's the way they kind of think. And EPZ doesn't work like that. EPZ, irrespective of the fact that yes, you might notice a certain bias on my side towards their product, I don't have a problem with admitting it. EPZ has never let me down personally in terms of having a product that I wasn't satisfied with, and never let me down as well in terms of not showing or not being open to maybe some suggestions I had to make. So they are a brand that definitely are open to what people say about them, and want to learn and want to make sure that the products that they launch are good quality products. Okay, that's the reality. In continuing in a little bit more detail here with the sound of the P50 Focus, bass, as I said, phenomenal. The transition into the mids, male and female vocals, are again exceptionally well done. There's no particular preference here, males better or female. No, very well done. They have the right amount of weight in terms of the male vocal. Sorry, they have a right amount of clarity and detail in terms of the female vocals. The transition into the highs and into the treble, basically, again, done flawlessly. There's no harshness, there's no sibilance, there's no nothing. I have to say that in terms of the micro planar implementation, okay, the P50 has got the best micro planar implementation. And what do I mean by that? When you listen to the micro planar implementation, for example, on the Kiwiears, the Canta, and this is for you to understand. In the Kiwiears Canta, it doesn't offend me, but you notice that the upper mids and treble have that, like I said, tizziness, that have that sound which many times we find in the not so well tuned BAs, and that makes us dislike the BA timbre and the tonality. So in the Canta, yes, you will notice that slightly, not with every song, but I personally did pick up on it here and there because of the way that they've pushed on purpose the way of the tuning. They've pushed the tuning of the Canta to be overly detailed, overly emphasized. Again, let me repeat, it doesn't offend me, and I think it's phenomenal. I can live with the few times that it offended me, let's put it that way. But for the more demanding, yes, I can understand that it has that as a defect. The same thing applies to the EW300. When you listen to the EW300, you can perhaps on occasion come across that perception that the micro planar there, and especially because then it has a PCT also helping out, could have been just a little bit more toned down. Something that, for example, in the case of the Kiwiears Quintet, was very prominent and was the main issue, I think, that many people excuse me, complained about. The 5 to 6, 7K area, excuse me, being perhaps a little bit overemphasized at times, or seeming to be overly emphasized. On the SimGod, the SM4, there was a noticeable improvement with regards to that. If anything, I think it was more than the PCT that perhaps became a problem than necessarily the microplanar. Here, in the case of the P50, excuse me, we don't have any PCT, so it's the microplanars. Definitely, they will be the ones at fault if they were overly pushed or not tuned so intelligently. And like I said, the P50, when it comes to the way that the microplanars have been tuned, it's phenomenal, really, really good. So much so that I will go as far as saying the following: the Duno, the DQ3001, when you go from one to the other, from the P50 to the Duno and back and forth, you notice straight away that the Duno's got tons more detail up top. And that's not only because it's got 4 planars, but it's because it's been emphasized in that manner. Graphically, you look at it and you wouldn't think so, because there's a difference when you look at it visually in terms of the graph. But there's 4 drivers there handling that upper frequency, while you have 2 here. And those 4 drivers there can lead to what some people said about the DQ, which was that it was overly energetic. However, the thing is, with the DQ3001, yes, it's overly energetic, but it's overly energetic in a very non-colored manner. While, for example, in the case of the Canta, it is over energetic, but it can be considered colored, or so this is basically what distinguishes IMs in our days, using very similar configurations and being lower price and higher price. In the higher price stuff, they are able to counteract the negative aspects that certain implementations have by adding a little bit more of a complexity in terms of the crossover network, to then still allow us to get the good part of what that driver has to offer, which is that energy, that detail, and so on, but then mitigate the negative aspect. And that's what happens there in the Duno. I never found any of it to be an issue to me. It's got loads of detail, but I never found it to be aggressive or harsh or colored or anything of the sort. On the P50, it's by obviously consequence of its price range and so on and so forth, they can't go and spend a certain amount of money on certain things. They have that limitation. But you can see that whatever they did there, they did it properly, and they paid attention and they were attentive to these issues. So you listen to the P50, and it sounds really very coherent. Everything scales very nicely when you push the volume. There's no one particular area in the volume that kind of jumps up or drops down or doesn't keep up. So it scales well. It's got really well executed bass, really well executed mids. The treble is, again, phenomenal. There's really nothing in that aspect that can be given or considered as a negative aspect. In terms of its technicalities, detailed retrieval, soundstage, imaging, again, everything is on par to what is expected on an IM of this price, $200, and it surpasses its abilities. Much like the SM4 was playing with IMs which were significantly more expensive and giving them a good run for their money, the P50 does the same thing. And that's where then the EST and the Duno come in, because obviously, yes, these two ultimately do show their colors and ultimately do show that they are slightly more polished products and that can justify their price increase. But the truth is this: I would say 85% of the time, the P50 was keeping up very nicely with either one of them. Was even being more fun and engaging than the high senior, to be honest, because obviously it's got a bass which is a little bit more live than the high senior. The high senior, the Mega 5 EST, the 7th anniversary version, is very laid back in the bass. Yes, you could counteract that by changing the dongle, and I showed you that a couple of weeks ago actually. But I'll touch up on that again soon when I do test the bass version of the Mega 5 EST. It's an IM that you change your dongle that's being used and the bass will change significantly. And the P50 is trading blows with those two, no issues. It's keeping up with them more often than not. And that, I think, already is saying a lot about it. It's showing us that yes, they know what they're doing, EPZ. It shows us that not only do they know what they're doing, but they made sure that they only released the product once it fulfilled their requirements in that aspect. Anyway, not wanting to drag this out too long, the truth is this: the P50, in terms of what it offers, is an IM that, in my books at least, it surpasses what the Quintet started. So if you are in the market of buying a new IM of this style and are choosing between these two, although yes, there is the fact that the Quintet and the Quintet and the SM4 do have a PCT still, The Quintet overall is not as competent in terms of its sound as the P50 is. The P50 does edge out the Quintet by being a more elegantly polished sounding IM, if that is maybe the best English that I could come up with. I'm not saying now that you should go sell your Quintet and get the P50. No, I'm not saying that. But if you're in the market of buying one and you don't have either, I would definitely go for the P50. The SM4 has got for it, or what it's got mainly going for it, is the price. I mean, $50 is money. That's the reality. $50 can get you a dongle almost. It can almost buy you a TP35. Let's put it that way. Sound-wise, you have a more conventional Harman style tuning there. Here you have a meta style that's been done with EPZ's own little touch. The bass is, spot on in my opinion, but they've given it a little bit extra liveliness in terms of the mids, upper mids, and treble, which the majority or most of the meta tuned stuff is a little bit more laid back. If you look at the KE4, if you look at the EST, they're very relaxed in that aspect. So there you have it, guys. EPZ P50 in terms of a up to $200 priced IM of this configuration, it is definitely the choice to go for. If there is any desire of me to compare it to other IMs at this price point, and I thought about maybe the D62 as a possible choice, although the D62 is a little bit more expensive. I'm talking about the CKLVX. I can do that. Although I did listen to it, and I can say that, there is very little between the two of them. There is very, very little between the two of them. They both sound phenomenal. I would ultimately say that the P50 is a little extra more detailed, but nothing much there in terms of difference. So I think the determining factor between getting a D62 and getting this will be obviously then price. And there's a few others, but like I said, I'll leave that to you guys. You guys decide if you want me to make that comparison. And in terms of the lower priced IEMs using this Micro Planar technology, I mean, I've said it. There's be it the Mimosa, be it the May, or be it the EW300, they are three really well done implementations. There's really I cannot wholeheartedly say I preferred one to the other. No, I liked all three of them. They are really well, and they really do stand out when compared then to stuff like the White Tiger and the Canta, which are by their own right also exceptional IMs, but these three do stand out by being just a step or two above them in terms of overall quality. The determining factor, I think for the Mimosa will ultimately be its price. That's the reality. Excuse me, it is a little bit more expensive than the May. It is a little bit more expensive than the SimGod. The SimGod still has as well the adjustable nozzles. But that's that. So guys, I'll show you the graphs, and if there's any questions or anything, please let me know, and I'll wrap it up. All right, you take care now. Bye-bye.